Good morning. My name is Robin Carter, and I serve as the president of the Board of Trustees for 11 more days of this Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. Happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day, happy almost summer solstice. I'm delighted to welcome you all this morning, whether you are here in person in the sanctuary or joining us virtually. We are a welcoming congregation where we work together to transform lives and our world by developing strong hearts and minds, challenging injustice, promoting sustainability, and celebrating diversity. It is great to see you all this morning. Allow me to share with you 3 event invitations. You can find these among other announcements on the sheet titled Connect at the back of your order of service this morning. Tonight at 5 p.m., you are invited to a Juneteenth celebration and revival. Juneteenth celebrates the anniversary of the last enslaved people in our country receiving the news of emancipation. This annual celebration, long important in the Black community, has gained national recognition over the last several years. Our community has celebrated this weekend with a calendar full of events. And tonight at 5 p.m. at Cornerstone Baptist Church, one of our sister churches here in the South Side, there will be a culminating celebration and revival. And if you've never been to a Baptist church revival before, know ahead of time that there will be heavy religious content. It will be a great opportunity for us UUs not only to show love and support to our siblings, but also to lean into new experiences that draw from one of our sources of our living tradition. The guest speaker will be Reverend Dr. Sheila Elliott Hodge, the phenomenal and progressive Black female minister of Silver Hill United Methodist Church here in Spartanburg, and is one of the leaders of our community's Interfaith Alliance. So that's tonight, 5 p.m., Cornerstone Baptist Church. Then on Tuesday, June 21st at 6:30, we will gather here in the sanctuary to celebrate the summer solstice. It is entitled Soul to Soul, the most fantastical midsummer storybook musical ever. You have to do the last part silent. This will be an evening of mischief and joy, of magic and paradox, of fools. The world turned upside down to show us more of who we really are. Led by our very own Stacy Jackson, this will be a riotous, wonderful evening. Come, be ready to be a fool and enjoy. And if you would like to help Stacy prepare for Tuesday night, stay after the service today for a time of crafting magic fairy wands and other implements of wonder. Come be a part. We will meet in the fellowship hall for that. And then our third invitation later this month. Mark your calendars for a Greenville Drive baseball game. John Pfeiffer is putting together an outing to see the Greenville Drive on Thursday, June 30th. There's good availability of seats for around $10 to $15 each. Parking is free at the Greenville County Square with a free shuttle to the park entrances. You can pick up your tickets at Will Call, or you can meet at Westgate Mall and carpool. If you're interested in going, please contact John by Tuesday the 21st, that's solstice, so he can get tickets for us as a group. Contact details for him are in your Connect. Thank you for making this a place of kindness and encouragement. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning. On June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, more than 2,000 federal soldiers of the 13th Army Corps arrived in Galveston, Texas, under the command of Major General Gordon Granger. The soldiers marched through Galveston reading General Order Number 3. This day of liberation became the celebration of Juneteenth, commemorating the last enslaved people to receive news of emancipation. which we celebrate today. So this is from General Order Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. Please join in mind or spirit to sing, please rise to sing hymn number 29 in the gray hymnal, Joyful, Joyful.
I would like to add my welcome to Ann and Robbins. I am Riley Lanier, and I'm your worship associate today and long-term member. Before you, we have a miraculous rippling bowl presented by our own Stacy Jackson, who did all the decoration and put the stones there. You are asked to place a stone or a shell or both into the rippling bowl, and the ripples lessen our sorrows and enhance our joys. My lovely wife, Cynthia Lanier, will place a stone and shell for those of you joining us virtually.
I've been staring at the edge of the water as long as I can remember, never really knowing why. I could be the perfect daughter, but I come back to the water no matter how hard I try. Every turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every load brings back place I know where I cannot go, where I long to be. See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go. I know everybody on this island seems so happy on this island. Everything is by design. I know everybody on this island has a role on this island. Maybe I can roll with mine. I can lead with pride, I can make us strong. I'll be satisfied, I'll play along. Voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, and no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me and let me know what's beyond that line. When I cross that line, the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know how far I'll go.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Because we encourage each other's search for truth and meaning and honor a wide variety of beliefs and spiritual practices, UUs or Unitarian Universalists don't state a creed or statement of belief. Our congregation, through the democratic process, however, has developed a covenant that states how we want to be with one another and our community. I invite you to say it with me. It can be found in your order of service. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. A long-held tradition in our services has been to greet one another, honoring the holy in our midst. Some of us have referred to this practice as holy chaos. During this time, we are free to move around the sanctuary, offer a kind word, a smile, a namaste vow, or a hug. Please be mindful, however, of each other's wishes and concerns regarding personal space and desires to be touched. Those of you joining us virtually are encouraged to send a brief text or positive energy to someone you're thinking about. And when Cindy starts playing music, please return quietly to your seats and prepare for the rest of the service. We all bring many gifts of love to this congregation. The Offertory is a time to contemplate a financial gift to sustain this place that is so sacred to many of us. May the ushers come forward and begin passing the plates as Cindy plays inspiring music.
You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew, you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon? Or ask the grinning bobcat why he grins? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountains? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends. And we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon? Or let the eagle tell you where he's been? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountains? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? How high does the sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon. For whether we are white or copper-skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountains. We need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth and still all you own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind.
All different now. Juneteenth, the first day of freedom. Written by Angela Johnson, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. A June morning breeze off the port blew the smell of honeysuckle past the fields, across the yard, and into the room to wake us. And nobody knew, as we ate a little, talked a little, and headed to the fields as the sun was rising, that soon it would be all different. Then we worked and worked and worked some more under the hot Texas sun. Until word spread from the port to town, through the countryside, and into the fields, that a Union general had read from a balcony that we were all now and forever free, and things would be all different now. I watched as my Aunt Laura sang as she held her baby. Mr. Jake, who some say was 100, cried quietly. And a group of grown people bowed their heads and whispered things to each other I could not hear. My mama held my hand softly and looked beyond as another breeze blew over and everything fell to a hush. But later, Papa, Mama, the aunts and uncles, and all of my cousins had an afternoon picnic by the water. My baby brother crawled around our blanket as we listened to the sound of the waves. And as more people joined us, we ate as a free people, laughed as a free people, and told stories as free people on into the night. What was before would be no more. As we walked back home, the cool of the night soothed our tired feet that padded quietly past the shadowy fields of cotton. And in the morning, the smell of honeysuckle will wake me again beside my sisters and brother to a time that will be, for all of us, all different now. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Join me in a moment of silence just to reflect on that beautiful story. When I heard from Scott Tuesday morning that he had tested positive for COVID, several thoughts ran through my mind, like, oh no, and How in the world did he get COVID? Because he has been one of the most intentional and careful people I have known over the past 2+ years of the pandemic. And what horrible timing as he is trying to wrap up so many things to be away for the next 6 weeks. And am I gonna make it through over a year or about a year visiting a COVID floor every day, not getting COVID, and then get it from Scott? So far, so good on that one. I tested negative at the end of the week. And then, oh my goodness, am I gonna have to write a meditation? In true Scott form, teamwork was the answer for that last question. Through many texts, emails, and edits to a Google Doc, he and I worked together to create this meditation. Scott frequently reminds us to slow down and to work together as a team. We did that this week, and I think we did it well. We didn't rush to have it all figured out by Tuesday. We took our time. We listened to each other, and we were thoughtful about how best to do this service. And here we are. I know it's cliche, but teamwork really does make the dream work. And I don't think I could have a better teammate than Scott Neely. A wise fool among us shared, what if once upon a time is the beginning of becoming, of being liberated? We have been telling stories this month of magic, of how hope and vitality can be restored to a depleted world, and of how close to our own reality these stories are. There are people of magic, spirit people, people of wonder, right here among us. Perhaps they are us. As Scott was preparing the service this week, he asked Denise if she might read the Emancipation Proclamation, issued on January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation is the antecedent to General Order Number 3 that brought news of emancipation to the last enslaved people in Texas and inaugurated the celebration of Juneteenth 157 years ago today. The Emancipation Proclamation is long and complex, revealing a step forward for liberty in our nation, and what a partial step it was. To read it is to reckon with our history and our present. It names states that seceded, and it is chilling to hear our own state, South Carolina, named when it is read aloud. It is powerful, not least when juxtaposed with the hearings on the January 6th insurrection of our own day. And it is full of compromises and exceptions, far from a total liberation of all people in the United States. In wise, deliberate response, Denise suggested that she read All Different Now by Angela Johnson and illustrated by E.B. Lewis instead, as she has just done so beautifully. What magic! Johnson's story, Lewis's amazing illustrations, Denise's reading, and her summons to turn our thoughts on Juneteenth to a fuller reality, to focus not only or foremost on the political saga that slowly led to emancipation and slowly unfolds still for our nation, but to open ourselves to a bigger and more human story, to turn our minds and hearts to imagine the people for whom that day meant new life, new hope. She has brought us a fuller vision of reality, a reality we could all too easily pass by without seeing it in its fullness. The reality of human beings and their lives, of their inherent worth and dignity, and their readiness to gather in reverence and to rejoice when their long denied worth and dignity beyond all price and calculation and exploitation and violence, was at last honored as they had so long deserved. With wisdom and clarity, Denise has reminded us who power is meant to serve: people, not history. Our human lives and our ability to live those lives fully, especially when the world has been made unlivable for us. And she has reminded us of how beautiful and abundant life can be when people are free. I spent several hours yesterday afternoon at Barnett Park, being part of the team representing Speaking Down Barriers at the Juneteenth Festival. While it was exceptionally hot, it was also a wonderful afternoon. There was such good energy in the air. There were lots of families, people of all ages. There was laughter, there were hugs, there was music and poetry and festival food and candy and booths representing our community partners. It felt like a celebration. I saw a number of you there. It was fun to look out several times and see one of those bright blue UUCS t-shirts walking through the crowd. It made me proud to see some of you volunteering in the booths of our community partners. I saw Denise and mentioned that Scott had shared a video reading of the story that she just read to us. And I commented on how beautiful the story and the illustrations were. She shared that the illustrator was a close family friend. What a connection. But here is even more magic. About 15 minutes after I walked in my door, I got a text from Scott saying, "Check out this message I received." It was a message from a friend in the community. We had shared on Facebook the cover of the book that Denise read, which also can be found on the cover of the Order of Service. They were excited to see that we were reading this book in our service today and wondered if we knew that people from Spartanburg had modeled for the illustrations in the book. We had no idea. They shared this brief reflection from retired Spartanburg School District 7 Superintendent and legendary community leader, Dr. Russell Booker. He wrote, "On September 26, 2012, renowned artist E.B. Lewis held a photo shoot made up of children and adults in School District 7. These 30 participants would later serve as his inspiration for the illustrations depicted in Angela Johnson's book, All Different Now. The book tells the story of the day freedom was finally granted to the last slaves in Texas. This day, June 19th, would become known as Juneteenth. This celebration of emancipation for African Americans and all citizens has spread across the country as well as our community. This popular children's book holds a special place in my heart because of the ties it has with Spartanburg School District 7 and my own family. Yes, the man you see depicted with the overalls and hat is me. My sons also took part in the shoot, and many other students and adults are included, including a whole host of students from Carver Middle School. This was a beautiful day, and I will be forever grateful for the experience. I'm glad E.B. chose to allow our community to become a part of this story." What an unexpected and beautiful connection. I just want to note that Carver Middle School, where many of the children depicted in the book were then students, is connected with our Be a Good Neighbor social justice team, as it supports Carver's PTO, teachers, and administrators. Look at how we are being pulled into beauty, into joy, into a fuller reality, into the world we know can be. The story comes for us and pulls us into its hope. What magic, what possibility, what a world this can be. Stop for a moment and think about the celebrations of Juneteenth across the country this weekend. This celebration is not new in the Black community. and well, we understand why. But for a moment, stop. Really, let's just take a moment and think and feel with reverence and rejoicing what the importance of this day is. That so many of us have passed over it without notice for many years, perhaps for most of our lives, calls us to consider why. What allowed us to miss what was happening? And that we have been invited into these celebrations in our community, to the fellowship and learning and food and music and reckoning that marks this day. This too is not something for us to pass over lightly. We are being invited into a fuller reality than we may have known before. Something of great importance is happening here. We are being invited into a renewed world, one that has been depleted by greed and violence, a world that is renewed when every person matters, when Black lives matter. This is not the same reality we were living in before, when we passed over June 19th without notice. We are being summoned into a reality of worth and dignity, of freedom and of joy. We are being invited to see and experience the world that can be when we treat each other as if we each matter. All month, we have been reflecting on stories of magic and wonder, stories in which a depleted world is renewed by the courage and wisdom of those who risk much to reinvigorate our life. We have heard each week stories of magical beings, spirit people, right here, right now. Ordinary, extraordinary people who through their care, their courage, their vision, their purpose, bring us hope for a replenished world. We have experienced that again today. The Cherokee tell of a people who live just beyond our human consciousness, just on the other side of our reality, the Yunwi Junsti, the little people, a fairy people just at the edge of our hearing and sight. Very rarely, but often enough that stories spread and are retold. A traveler through the forest will hear voices singing, will hear people dancing, will find themselves in need of help and receive timely guidance, timely counsel. These are the little people. They often appear in communal celebration, in acts of community and joy, singing and dancing as if to show us a life that is possible, but which we have lost. They show themselves most often when a person needs to be reminded of how to live in right relationship with the earth, with the flora and fauna, with other human beings. The Yunwi Junsti show us what life could be like if we lived in harmony with the world and one another, the joy and fellowship in which we could live with all things. Their courage to appear to us and invite us to experience that fuller reality is not separate from their joy at what their world is and what ours could be. Do we hear? Do we hear what these stories are telling us? Magical beings from beyond the edge of our reality, and spirit people from this reality right here, from this community right here, are inviting us to a fuller reality, to create a life of freedom, of joy, of mutuality, of respect, a reality that they know can be. They have lived it. They have seen it, and they come telling us stories of what we can create. Last week, we reflected on fools and on the upside-down wisdom they share to reinvigorate our world. I had never been so happy to be called a fool. Here is a story of great foolishness. A few weeks ago, we celebrated, yes, you heard me right, celebrated our annual meeting. It is true, elections and budgets and bylaws do not sound like much cause for celebration, except maybe to a few church nerds that I know. And the meeting was thorough. It was long. It was thoroughly long. And that is just what we needed it to be. It was wonderful. We had a lot to report on, a lot of business to cover. And after the 2 years we have all lived through, we had to do it thoroughly, deliberately, and well. And we did. And over again in the meeting, applause erupted. And over again in the meeting, there was laughter and cheers. And by the time we neared the end of the meeting, with a superabundance of praise and honor for work done well by teams in every part of our congregation, with hope and possibility for the future, and with gratitude for outstanding leadership at every level through a season of stress and differing views and trying to find each other again after a long, long time. All of that laughter and those cheers and that clapping looked a lot like celebration. It certainly felt like one. We have lived through a time of grief and brokenness, of depletion, and foolish as it may be, that annual meeting was a rebinding, a reconnecting, a renewing of our life together. And you could feel that magic all around us. And then we went downstairs for a feast. And goodness, the food. And oh my goodness, the desserts. And the simple joy of being together after all we have all struggled with and lived through. And the pleasure of being in community, of remembering why we do all of the business of church to begin with, to be with and for one another, whatever all our perspectives and disagreements may be, to create a little place in the world where each belong and are loved, where we are welcomed and fed and cherished just as ourselves, exactly as we are, where we are each free, and where our mutual commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of each of us nourishes and cultivates that freedom. And because we experience that here in such beauty and abundance, a longing fills us to share it out there too, to bring the magic of this place to a depleted world, to share the story that every one of us belongs, just as we are, and that the world can be a place of beauty and abundance and celebration and music and laughter and joy, a place restored to its fullness when we help one another just be ourselves and be free. There is a world we know is possible. Our stories tell us. Magical beings invite us in. We have experienced it ourselves right here. We are invited to feast, to celebrate, to sing together in the fuller reality of life, to share with one another the freedom and abundance that we know can be for every one of us, just because we are. We do that when we offer one another every day the worth and dignity inherent in our very being. A wise fool among us shared, "What if happily ever after is the freedom that we get when we are living in the world as we really are and being fully alive. You'll rise in mind or spirit and sing hymn number 121 in the gray hymnal, "We'll Build a Land."
That's not the right key.
To extinguish the chalice, all slaves are free, from General Order Number 3. The people are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. What if once upon a time is the beginning of the story of becoming, of being liberated? What if happily ever after is the freedom we get when we are living in the world as we really are, of being fully alive? Go and be the people of magic that you are.